Welcome to the Everything Embodiment podcast, where I will help you find peace, understanding, and love all within your human body, enhancing your mind-body connection through the exploration of vast ideas, concepts, and modalities, discussions all meant to propel you along your own unique spiritual journey. I'm your host, Amber Miller. Hello and welcome to the Everything Embodiment podcast. I am your host, Amber Miller. You may already know me from my social media accounts, amber.nicole.eoe, or my website, emeraldoakenergy.com. I do offer angelic energy healing, and I do have some mediumship services. So why a podcast? It is my intention to be a resource for others who have recently had a spiritual awakening or might be going through one now. I desire to be a safe and positive space and trusted resource for those needing direction or knowledge. I understand the significance that a well-done podcast episode can hold and how my life has literally changed for the better because of what I've learned. I considered myself atheist until my explosive awakening in 2020. My belief system was completely turned upside down, and now I fully believe in pre-birth planning, past lives, spirit guides, angels, human design, astrology, you name it, and I've probably explored it. Podcasts made the exploration possible. So because of all this, I want to be careful in how I define myself because I hope to evolve and change. I hope that how the podcast looks now, I hope it looks a little different in the future. So while my spiritual awakening felt very explosive, looking back, there were signs. And the first signs was, even though I did not really believe in God or anything like that, I did believe in the law of attraction and manifestation. The Secret was quite popular, and I applied it to my life, and I did see the changes. I saw changes immediately. I found pretty quickly that I was very good at manifesting, and of course I wanted to get better. So I knew I needed to go beyond The Secret, and that's where I found Gabby Bernstein, and I read her book Super Attractor, and that really, without knowing it, kicked off my spiritual journey. There ended up being a chapter that even talked about our guides and angels, and I remember getting to that chapter and thinking, I don't even want this. I just want to manifest. I don't need to know about angels. So setting the angel talk aside for now, that book taught me the significance of understanding my energy better. I'm going to share a quote from Albert Einstein. And Einstein said, "Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but to get the reality. It can be no other way." This is not philosophy, this is physics. So, frequency first. To really understand our energetic frequency, I personally use the Abraham Hicks Emotional Guidance Scale. It is a list of commonly felt emotions, and they are listed on a scale, and you can see from the lowest vibrational energy to the highest vibrational energy. And the highest vibrational energy is joy, appreciation, empowerment, freedom, love. The closer we are to joy, the more easily we attract what we want. The lowest possible frequencies to be in is those given off when you are in fear, grief, desperation, despair. Those are the lowest, and those are even lower than jealousy, hatred, and anger. Well, I was on a mission to manifest everything I had ever wanted, so I needed to learn how to be in joy. So the thing is, you can't just be in fear or grief and despair and tell yourself, oh, snap, I want to be in joy. I'm in joy now. It doesn't work that way. Your brain has to believe you're in joy. So I found that by becoming very familiar with this scale, I could easily tune into where I was by what I was feeling, identifying it, and then taking the steps to move myself back up the scale without tricking my brain. It was a genuine lifting of my energy. So say you are in a lower vibrational frequency. Say you're feeling really jealous. You got some news about someone else and you are just jealous. it's okay to feel that jealousy. But once you feel it, you can let it move through you, and say you move on up to discouragement. That's an improvement. Discouragement is an improvement. From there, you can go even higher to disappointment. And you can keep going through to frustration, pessimism, and then finally you're going to be at a spot of contentment. Well, from there you can go to optimism and positive expectations. And from there you can jump back up to joy. And there you've worked your way up the scale and you're back in joy. And then by being back in joy, you have raised your frequency. You're back up manifesting. You're back up attracting. You're getting the things that you desire. So understanding this emotional guidance scale is so important to helping you get back and staying in joy. And once you're high vibe, once you're back in joy, the best way to remain joy is having a strong gratitude practice. And that doesn't happen overnight. At least for me, it didn't. I had grown to be a default pessimist, and I did that because I thought I was protecting myself from future disappointment, but really I was blocking myself from potential joy. I had it all wrong. If I was applying for a job, I would think like, oh, I probably won't get it. So then I'll be extra happy if I do get the interview and get the job. But no, that's not how it works. And I just look back and think of how much joy I robbed myself of. You're doing the same thing when you are spending your time being anxious, worrying about the future, worrying about all these scenarios that might happen, but probably won't. I can't tell you how much energy I have wasted thinking of, I'm going to say this when this happens, or even worse, I should have said this when this happened. So I had seen enough of my manifestations come to fruition that I couldn't explain any other way than my positive mindset brought them to me, that I knew I wanted to change. I did not want to be a default pessimist anymore. And to be completely transparent with you guys, I was such a negative person that if I saw somebody whose default was hope or joy, I probably made fun of them, in my head, or it was hard for me to take that seriously. So to really change my gratitude habits, I put myself through like a little 30-day gratuity boot camp. And when I say it changed my life, I am not exaggerating. So every day I spent about 5 minutes just being mindful of what I was grateful for. And each day I kind of shifted the subject of, what I was feeling grateful for, but I did the work every day. And man, I was just manifesting everything I wanted during this time. And it was just undeniable that the shift in my attitude had direct results on my daily life. So a recommendation that I have for a starting point, if you're at a point where you can't even get to that grateful journal or gratitude journal yet, there's a step you can take before that. And that for me is a micro joy list. If you're like me, back before, if I was in grief or just depression, I almost felt guilty if I found any enjoyment or pleasure in life. Like, no, I'm supposed to be miserable right now. It's inappropriate for me to find joy. Again, I had it all wrong. Even though I'm in grief, I'm allowed to be happy. I'm allowed to feel grateful and joy when the sun hits my skin. I'm allowed to notice that beautiful flower and just acknowledge that I like it and it's pretty and it makes me feel good. So start with a joy list. What I did, because I was so depressed and in despair, I actually had a large bathroom mirror at the time, and I took a dry erase marker, and if it's something that didn't make me sad, that's how low my bar was. I wrote it on this mirror, so I would see it every time I was in the bathroom. And just eventually something shifts, and you're just more present, and you're more aware of your surroundings, and you're more aware that there are things that give you joy. So a later example would be, when my baby was crying in the middle of the night, say they're teething or sick or whatever, instead of being focusing on like, oh my gosh, I need to sleep, I would just be so aware that I was grateful that I had a baby to take care of. And you can't help but to feel better. Not to invalidate if I felt tired the next morning, but just reminded myself how grateful I was that I had my baby. So once you get yourself to a state where you are allowing yourself those joys, it's easier to slide into the gratitude practices. So with that, I do have gratitude journals, and I have one for things that I presently have in my reality that I'm grateful for, and that's when I'll spend a few minutes before bed or in the morning before anyone wakes up and just jot down what I'm grateful for, and I just really allow myself to feel those feelings of being grateful for whatever it is. And then I also have a kind of a future journal where I am writing in present tense the things that I desire. And I also sit with those feelings and allow them to really be acknowledged. So you've got your joy list down, you've got your gratitude practices set. Say now you are having just a day, you are stressed or you're just really anxious about something. How can you get yourself back to the present moment? Well, that's where grounding comes in. So what is grounding? When I started my journey, I had no idea what grounding was. I don't think I had ever even heard of it at that time. So the technical definition or understanding of grounding is that it is connecting your physical body to Earth's electrical energy. But what I like to really think of it as is getting present in your moment, doing what you need to do to just reconnect yourself back down to earth into your body. Take a moment to embrace the stillness. So there are just endless ways to ground yourself if acceptable or possible in your moment. The fastest, best way to do it is just get outside, go feel the grass on your bare feet, feel the sun on your skin, go lean against a tree, take some deep breaths. That is the best way. But that's not always possible. So like when I'm at work, I will take a moment and go wash my hands. I work in a hospital setting, so it wouldn't be unusual for someone to, take a moment to wash their hands. So I will go and just really be present, feeling the water on my skin, seeing it drip off my fingers. All it takes is that moment of mindfulness and awareness to just bring you back. And during that time, just take some deep belly breaths. I also am the kind of person, I shower at night, I shower before bed, and when I'm in the shower, I also use that as a moment for grounding. So I just really take a moment and picture the water just cleansing and repairing my aura and my energy and kind of washing away anything that was picked up over the day that's not mine, anything that's no longer serving me. And I imagine that when it goes down the drain, it's going to be recycled back into this clean, fresh, new energy. Which brings up a great point. You can have, or you should have, intention with your energy. You can set that intention. So I set that intention that the shower will ground me and clear my energy and any energy no longer serving me. So if you're not familiar with the phrase, setting your intention is the process of creating a clear and focused mental or emotional intention for a specific goal or outcome. It is consciously directing your thoughts and energy toward a desired outcome or experience, and I believe it increases the likelihood of achieving it. Again, it took me a long time to get to this point, but with intention, you can get there too. So it's easy to talk about these big concepts, but having them just be on autopilot in your life takes work. So I've been talking for maybe 10-15 minutes about these things, but this has been months and months of intentional work for all this to be default in my life. But I'm encouraging you, if it resonates, take this up and explore this deeper, because when I look back, I can't believe that I lived my life the way I did, intention free, without any awareness of joy or gratitude. And getting a handle on these topics, I now can look back and know that it was, my guides, my spirit team preparing me for the spiritual journey I was about to embark on. I want to talk quick now about the action of surrender and how this applies to everything that we've talked about up until now. So, spiritually speaking, to surrender, it means that you are giving up your own, not will, but you're giving up your own thoughts, ideas. You're giving up the control, the grip you have on this outcome, and trusting that the universe or God is going to bring you an outcome more suited for your highest good. And sometimes when we have just such an end goal, we are blocking better opportunities. I read the book, The Magic of Surrender with Kute Blackson, and it was there that I learned that surrendering doesn't mean giving up. It's just leaning into the path life has set for us, and that is when you allow the real magic to happen. So you would set your intention and keep your vibration high, and you just know that what you're asking for is going to be delivered, and you're surrendering the timeline and the hows of how is it going to happen. I'm going to share a little story now that just ties everything that we've talked about up until this point together, so you can see the real life application of having all these things in alignment that we've talked about. During COVID, my husband and I rented our home, and we were finally feeling like we were ready to buy, but very discouraged by what was happening in our neighborhood. Houses were suddenly doubling in price, and they were being bought by people who had full cash offers, and they were waiving inspections, and it really felt impossible. I set the intention that we would buy a house in a fun process, and I laid out the specifics of the property that I wanted, and I just told myself everything would be smooth and easy and we would have fun. I told myself this for months until I finally believed it, because in the back of my head at first I was like, oh my God, how is this going to be fun? I was hearing stories from coworkers who had toured 10, 20 houses and just were just getting constantly outbid. So I had finally worked myself up to surrender the details and just remaining confident that we would find our house. Now, I am a big believer of and use signs, numbers, to communicate with my spirit team. So one day we had decided that, you know what, we are going to get a new build. It's a guaranteed house, no competition. This is what we're going to do. So we found this new build community, and I had set up the appointment, and it was the day before. I was so excited, thinking this is finally it. We were renting this house. We were bursting at the seams in this house. I was ready to get in our own place. So I asked my spirit team, I said, give me, what did I ask for? I think like a 97 for yes, go ahead with the new build, and an 86 for walk away. And I had come up with those numbers just because the square footage of the house that we were looking at ended in 97, I believe. And I really was having a hard time coming up with my no number. So I thought of 86, because just from my restaurant waitress days, when we would 86 something that we were out of. So set that out there to my guides, and I was immediately surrounded with cars with license plates ending in 86. So I was like, oh shoot, how am I going to tell my husband that I saw some license plates, so we're not going to be able to do this? I couldn't. So anyway, next day we're driving to the property, and I could tell my husband was really excited, and I had to nervously tell him, hey, I don't think this is our answer. And he was just kind of quiet. I don't know if I want to label him a skeptic. He was sort of open to everything that was going on for me, but I don't think that the number 86 was going to keep him from buying a house. So anyway, we get to these new builds and we're having fun. It looks so nice. Everything looked great. And we probably were very close to leaving a deposit. And right before that part of the process came up, the property manager told us that we could go ahead and take a look at one of the models that we were interested in was in process of being built. So there was nothing in it yet. It was still being built, but we could walk around and just explore. So we opened the door, and right there on the floor was spray painted the number 86. So there was just a look of shock between my husband and I. And even more, we went in the kitchen and there was just a big open space where a window would later go, and all you could see when you were looking through this open space was the end of a billboard where the last two numbers were 86. So with that, I knew we could not go on with the purchase of this new build. Luckily, I was able to tell my husband all the things I didn't like about the house, and I kind of overplayed the things I didn't like about the house. Whereas if I didn't have that guidance from my team, I would have put a deposit down. I would have been like, we need a house. This is it. It's here. No competition. This is it. So that was a Friday. Saturday morning, this house popped up on my Zillow search, and the only reason it popped up was because my computer died. So I grabbed my daughter's iPad, and my filters for my search were not set because I hadn't searched on the iPad yet. So this house I wouldn't have even found if I was using my computer that morning. So anyway, I find this house. There's an open house. We go and look. We fall in love. It's our house. I felt it immediately. So we, of course, our offer is accepted. We're moving in, and before we moved in, we ended up closing on my father-in-law's birthday, who he passed away. He's in spirit. So it felt really special. It felt like he was a part of the process, because I know that if he was living, he very much would have been a part of the process. So it felt really special that he was included in that way. And then when we had looked at this house, it was an open house. We didn't have an agent yet. So we asked the selling agent if she would represent us too. And she accepted. And it wasn't until we got the keys and were doing the final walkthrough that she just casually shared, I don't ever represent the buyers, but I told myself, the money I make on this house, I'm going to split the commission with my friend whose husband was having a medical situation and could really use the money. And so she said, I excitedly took your offer because it would mean that I had more money to give my friend. And then I think the real estate agent walked into the house, and I stayed in the backyard, and I was just like, wow, not only was this in alignment with the highest good of my family, but multiple other families too. That story, we've been in our house about 2 years now, and we recently drove past that subdivision that we had almost bought a new build in, and just immediately my husband and I knew, like, wow, we would survive here, but we would not be as happy as we are in the house that we ended up purchasing. So that took a lot of being aware of my energy, a lot of intention, and a lot of surrender. And to be able to do that, I had to really be grounded in my energy. All right, guys, I think that's a wrap on episode 1. I hope you enjoyed. This is a new podcast, so please like, share, leave a review, get yourself a gratitude journal, and I hope to see you back next week.